Well, as we say often on this show, the truth vindicates. The only variable is whether the person speaking the truth lives long enough to witness the vindication, which wasn't the case with the British Conservative politician Enoch Powell. Powell was a classical Greek scholar, poet and author who impressed a lot of academics and won a lot of prizes when he studied at Cambridge University in the early 1930s. He was appointed at the age of 25 Professor of Greek at Sydney University in 1937, but he only stayed for a year because he could see that war was about to erupt in Europe and he wanted to join the British Army, which he did, entering the army as a private and ending the war as a brigadier, one of only 2 soldiers to receive that many promotions during the war. He then became a Conservative politician, and in 1968 he delivered a speech to a Birmingham branch of the Conservative Party, which was later dubbed the Rivers of Blood speech. In it, Powell quoted Virgil's poem, the Aeneid, in which Virgil, envisaging a war, pictured the river Tiber foaming with much blood. Powell was referring specifically to the 1968 Race Relations Act, which itself was an extension of the 1965 Race Relations Act, which made it illegal in Britain to incite hatred against anyone based on their ethnicity. The 1968 version of the bill added employment and accommodation to the bill, so from that point on, it was illegal to discriminate against migrants when providing accommodation or jobs. Powell's foreboding was based on his observation that Britons were starting to feel like strangers in their own land. As far as Powell was concerned, discrimination was a private matter. If you didn't want people of a certain ethnicity living in your neighbourhood, that was your prerogative. This legislation might have made all Britons, whether migrant or native born, equal before the law, but it also withdrew the obligation of migrants to assimilate into British society. That has been considered a right of migrants in places like Australia and Britain ever since. Despite all his many achievements and valour, Powell spent the last 30 years of his life as a synonym for racism and bigotry. The irony is that in this multicultural society, there are places in our cities where Jews are not welcome and would be ill-advised to visit. So much for the openness and tolerance of the multicultural society that the Race Relations Act was supposed to create. There's a good chance that all this acrimony will spill over into violence on the streets of London this weekend. London authorities are doing their best to make sure that that doesn't happen, but the way they are approaching it is only dealing with the symptoms. The true cause of all this civic acrimony and unrest is yet to be addressed. If Powell was alive today, he'd say, "I told you so."